Live by the sword, die by the sword. This is the conclusion from a table in which I compared Alfa Romeo Stelvio to the competition. Yes, mainly the German competition. If you know German motoring press, you know that Germans like their tables. In a table, it's easy to compare key dimensions, power, acceleration, fuel economy, and other numeric data. Based on such a table, one can objectively state Model X is better than Models Y and Z because it is the cheapest, most economical, and at the same time offers most space for passengers and has the biggest boot. From this perspective, Alfa Romeo Stelvio is among best in class, especially in the first edition trim with a 2-liter 4-cylinder 280 horsepower petrol motor. In order to better illustrate the Italian achievement, let me sum up key points. Stelvio is one of the largest, but at the same time cheapest cars in its segment, and in order to match or exceed the performance of the 280 horsepower Stelvio, you have to go for a 3-liter engine. So we're talking about BMW X3 xDrive 35i or Audi SQ5. Okay, so you could get a 2-liter Mercedes-Benz GLC hybrid, but we're still talking about very fast, very expensive cars. An asterisk here, at the time of recording of this review, BMW X3 G01 was available only in 3 engine versions, none of which fitted this comparison, so I used F25 X3 data instead. 280 horsepower, 400 Nm of torque and just 1,660 kilograms give a 0 to 100 km/h time of 5.7 seconds. To put it into perspective, a 4-cylinder 320 horsepower Volvo XC60 T6 is almost 300 kilograms heavier and 0.2 of a second slower from 0 to 100 km/h. A 3-liter Jaguar F-Pace is still slower than the Alfa. Stelvio wins the table battle hands down. But when judging cars, there are also other less objective criteria like driving engagement, quality, perception of the brand. Stelvio takes its name from the highest Italian mountain pass you can drive through. The section of the road going through the Stelvio Pass has some 20 kilometers and more than 75 sharp turns. Choosing the car's name, Alfa Romeo promises a lot and gives us plenty. Stelvio is good 150 kilograms lighter than any of its competitors with similar performance. This lightness was achieved thanks to liberal use of aluminum as well as carbon fiber. For example, Stelvio has a carbon fiber driveshaft like BMW M3. By the way, BMW is forced to abandon carbon shafts in new M3s to fit gasoline particulate filter. I wonder if Alfa Romeo engineers thought about that. Like in the more sporty driving-oriented competitors, such as Porsche Macan, Jaguar F-Pace or BMW X3, also Stelvio's all-wheel drive system is rear-wheel biased, so you feel you're being pushed out of the corner rather than being dragged out of it. If front wheels need more traction, power can be split 50-50 between rear and front axles. I complained ride in the Giulia was too harsh, but in the Stelvio, it's perfect. Not comfy soft, but soft enough to absorb some minor imperfections in the road and firm enough to drive fast around corners. Like the Giulia, also Stelvio has fast 12:1 steering ratio. This is faster than in BMW M3, and Stelvio is an SUV after all. So let's compare it against an SUV. Porsche Macan has 14.3:1 steering ratio. We can split hairs whether Stelvio steering isn't tad light, but it's definitely faster. And again, in order to beat Stelvio from the lights, you have to buy a more expensive, heavier 3-liter Macan S. In a way, Stelvio is a poor man's Macan. This car, with options, costs about 60 grand, which is less than Macan S base priced. But Alfa Romeo is not perfect. Here, Alfisti can stop watching. I said a lot of good things about the Stelvio, so you can assume everything else is just nitpicking of a fat shorty who was paid off by the competition and who doesn't understand one buys Alfa Romeo with one's heart, not with hard-earned money. Perception of the Alfa Romeo brand is a touchy subject. Many bar disputes will see two opposing groups form. One group loves Italian cars epitomized by relatively affordable Alfa, and the other group makes jokes about reliability of Italian cars. Now, Giulia did have its quirks, but Stelvio is fine. Well, it's not entirely fine. For example, power tailgate sometimes takes ages to open. I was unable to replicate this for camera, but the issue was recorded in at least 2 other test cars. And then there is the stop and start system, which will stop the wipers for a moment when the engine is turning back on. I remember something like this happening in older cars with dynamo generators. Over there, you could either use the wipers or headlights, but not both. I complained about large paddle shifters in my Alfa Romeo Giulia review. For the first couple of hours behind the wheel, it's hard to find indicator and wiper stalks. Mounted behind the steering wheel, paddles are always easy to find and you always know which one is which, but taking into account how fast the steering is, you'll seldom have to turn the wheel so much to forget which paddle does what. Brakes are also strange. It's some electromechanical intelligent contraption which is supposed to ensure the same fast reaction and the same effectiveness regardless of the heat. I don't feel the brakes are particularly strong or quick. Actually, when driving in heavy rain, the pedal was quite spongy. I was also unable to get fuel consumption below 10 liters per 100 kilometers, despite manufacturers' claimed 7 liters combined. Stelvio has front collision warning, autonomous emergency braking with pedestrian detection, lane departure warning, which is so delicate you barely notice it. I guess all this is standard these days in this class. Also standard in this class should be decent multimedia, and what Alfa Romeo offers is hardly class-leading infotainment solution. I find cockpit design to be simple and elegant, but my friend, who happens to own a Mercedes, said it's a copy of an old BMW dashboard. Perhaps this is why I like it. Compared to the Giulia, there is now a place to put away your smartphone, and if you turned off parking sensors, they will come back on when you restart the car. While I'm in the back, let me talk about visibility for a minute. Now, I was really afraid that visibility would be compromised by the sloping window in the back there. However, I drove this car for a couple of 100 kilometers with passengers in the back, and it turned out that shorter passengers don't even come up over the headrests, so the headrests can stay the way they are. And even me, I'm 175 centimeters tall or short, as you keep reminding me, I'm fine. I don't need to raise the headrests, so visibility in the rear view mirror is fine. That said, visibility is compromised by the huge C-pillars, and if you would carry some kids here, kids are obviously much shorter, they would probably have trouble seeing over this high window line here. I mean, I know they're in child seats, etc., but you know, small kids, even in a child seat like this, don't see much. At least that's what I think. I mean, I don't remember when I was a kid, we didn't even have child seats, so that's that. There are air vents and 2 USB ports. Forget about 3 or 4 zone climate control. There is decent legroom and headroom. Levers to fold the back seats are strangely located by the floor. Backrests are not on springs though. Levers to fold back seats are also in the boot. The boot has a regular shape and 525 liters capacity. It's towards the bottom in the class, but I'm not complaining. I like separate buttons to shut the tailgate and lock the car, so even Italians know there is such a feature. We also ought to talk about the looks. Giulia may be a beautiful sports sedan, but Stelvio looks like a 4-door Brera on steroids, and I'm not a fan of Duke Nukem-style faux exhaust tips. Alfa Romeo Stelvio prices start just below €40,000. This test car with a 280 horsepower engine in first edition trim with some options costs around 60 grand. Stelvio is Alfa's first SUV and the second model on the new Giorgio platform. In my opinion, Giulia is still in beta, whereas the Stelvio is a first good step in a new segment. And what do you think about Alfa Romeo Stelvio? Let me know in the comment section below. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. New episodes every Friday. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.